I've answered this many times before, but no, I do not want children. I just got off another long call with my dad, jokingly, but yet seriously, trying to guilt me into having children, grandchildren, with my husband. My husband is an INTJ. He doesn't want kids either, although he is more open to having them than I am. I definitely know for sure I don't want kids. And even though earlier I was saying that, oh, if I ever am with someone and they change their mind, I'll be okay with it. The point is, I don't want them. I like kids. I play with kids. Kids love me. I love playing with toys. I have a huge imagination. And so I think, based on what parents have said or told me, based on my personality, kids just gravitate towards me. A lot of people have dumped their kids on me or asked me to babysit their kids because I'm so good with them and they trust me wholeheartedly with their children. And the kids love me. And I love them. But I don't want any of my own. And the reason why is because I am heavily introverted, even though outside you can't tell because when I'm with people, I'm a what they call a social butterfly, but inwardly I am groaning so hard because I just want to get away. And I feel like having a child on top of that would overwhelm me. There are times where I love my dogs very much, but there are times when they get on my nerves too. And I'm like, leave me alone. Like my little Pomchi, he is so needy. Like my other dogs are not as bad. The big one is sometimes, but at least she's like, okay, mommy wants her space. The little one will harass me for love. He'll just paw and claw me, and I'll love him and I kiss him. And if I sit there, there are times when I just want to kiss him forever. And I'll sit there for an hour kissing him. I'm not even exaggerating. An hour. I'll kneel in the chair and I'll just kiss him, and he's so cute, and I just kiss him, and he loves it. He never gets tired of it. He never pushes me off. Like he will sit there for hours just being kissed and petted. He's a total extrovert, my little boy. But there are times when he wants that, and I'm just like, no, go away. Like I love you, but I need some space. You're getting on my nerves. And a kid, you can tell the dog to go sit in the corner after you fed and everything. With kids, you can't do that. You can't. There are certain things that you could do if your dogs are under you. You can put them in the kennel. And yes, a big part of it is discipline with the kids. But there are certain things you just cannot do with kids. You don't have as much freedom to do with kids as you do with animals. Animals, you don't have to worry about doing their homework or bringing them to school and all that. Just talking about it makes me tired. The other thing is, yes, people will be like, oh, you're selfish. Yeah, I am. I don't want to have preeclampsia or have life threatening issues if I have to have a kid. I don't want to have my body broken up. My mom has a hip problem because when she carried my twin brothers, because of the pregnancy and her belly or the pressure or whatever, her hip would often go out of socket. Like there's just so many people don't understand with females how many situations happening. Not only do we have to worry about our market value, which goes drastically down once you have kids. So imagine if your husband dies or something and you want to go back out there on the market a few years later, you having kids and being older, while that works out for a man, it does not work for a woman as well. So that's another thing I think about. Like, God forbid anything happened to my husband, and I go back out there and I have these children in tow that I have to deal with by myself. It's just it's nerve-wracking, and I would feel so overwhelmed. I would feel trapped. And as an INFP, I hate saying this because it sounds so cliche, but I feel like a free spirit. And I never got my spirit free while I was living at home with my mother. And I say my mother, I lived with my mom and dad. They're separated now, but I say that because she was the one who wore the pants in the family. She stifled and smothered everyone and ended up pushing them away. And I think coupled with the fact that my childhood with her was so horrible, not saying she was mean or bad all the time. There were moments where she was good. But she also had a lot of demons that she was battling with because she was abused. I just don't see me having a kid. And I don't think I would put the kid through that, but having had a lot of my childhood taken from me, and on top of that, on top of dealing with that, having to have raised my twin brothers, because my mom had to go to work, she had these kids, I didn't want them in the first place because I was paranoid that she was going to treat me horribly when she had them, like, worse than I was being treated. Um, and she was mindful of that because I said it. But I had to take care of them. I had to sit, I had to feed them. I couldn't go outside and play with my friends. Like, everything a day that I was responsible for. It was a nightmare. My dad had to go out and take care of his old man. And I just. It's always been that responsibility of taking care of them. I feel like I've spent my childhood taking care of babies. And in the summer, instead of me going out there like a normal child and playing with my friends or having fun and freedom, my mom's brother would carry their 3 kids over for the summer, and guess who had to babysit everybody? Me. I had to babysit them. 5 kids by myself. When my mom came in, she worked, 12, 16 hours as a nurse. My dad was taking care of that old man, and he came home, but I was the woman of the house, so I had to do the cleaning, I had to do the cooking, I had to do the disciplining. Like, it was just me. I had to help them with their homework. Understand that in that situation as a kid, growing up as a teenager, wanting a date, wanting to do all that stuff, growing up in a strict Christian household with a mother who was kind of abusive, it is very rough. So when I think about having kids, I like gag. Like, it's just not that kids are disgusting, but I don't want that for myself. And that was a talk I had with my husband. I told him I don't want kids. He's like, I don't want kids either, but I'm open to it, if you want. So basically, if it happens, it happens. He's a lot more okay with it than I am, because if I got pregnant, I would abort the pregnancy. I just would, because I don't want to be a mother. And I feel it's very annoying and immature when people say that women who don't want kids are selfish. But yet, if you say we're selfish for not wanting to have kids, why would you want a selfish person to have children? That doesn't compute to me. Why would you want someone who only thinks of themselves to even have those kids in the first place? Why would you want someone who doesn't want kids to have them? And as I've said before, there are a lot of people who bring kids into this world that have no business having them. Honestly, some people just shouldn't be parents. My mother is one of those people. She should have never been a parent. She is a very dysfunctional, heavily abused, mentally disturbed INFJ, and she never dealt with those problems. She was suicidal. Like, a lot of that stuff that happened with her mom having done those things to her trickled on over into me, and the way she also raised my brothers, both of us, and how she treated my father. Like, it's a lot. I don't think she's evil. I think she's disturbed. And she had no business having a baby. My father at the time, they were young married, and my father at the time thought that if she had a baby, she would love something other than herself. She wouldn't worry about killing herself anymore. And it did work for a while. I was 2 years old when she moved to America, and she sent me back down as a baby to live with my dad because the people she's staying with were not very nice. But she's never dealt with those problems, and it's ruined our relationship, how she treated me. And that's part of the reason why I never had any joy with her as my mom. So I can't see myself having that joy with another child. I can't. That was robbed from me. And so in my adult life, when I'm finally free of her, I feel like my life has just begun when I moved out of her house. And then I feel like I'm going to be trapped again, having to devote my whole life for over 18 years to a whole other human being that's going to be constantly crying and wanting your attention. And I cannot deal with that. I just thinking about it makes me fucking nuts. And I think it is better when people recognize that they are not equipped to be parents and not have kids, rather than just give in to the social pressures of people who have nothing to do with you or your bedroom life or your children. I think it's better that you just make that decision if you know you can handle it. I think that's more mature. But then you have people that give in to the social pressures, and then they regret it. They're like, oh, that's great. You'll change your mind once you hold the baby. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. And a lot of people regret it. There are a lot of people who wish they never had. There are a lot of people who are stressed out about it, and it sucks. A lot of people have their kids that are burdens, and I don't want that. I want to be free. I am free of my mom. I am finally free. I want to be happy. my husband and I like our peace and quiet. We're both introverts, and he might change his mind. I don't know what's gonna happen when that happens, because when we had the conversation, this was before we started dating, and I made it clear, very clear, that I did not want kids. Very clear. And he was like, I don't want him either. But if we have him, we have him. And I think if I did get pregnant, he'd be like, no, let's keep it. Which is very terrifying to me. Which is why I have an IUD. So that doesn't happen. I know there are cases where it could, but it's very unlikely. But I just wanted no room for accidents. I don't want to be on any pill. First of all, the pill makes you gain weight. And secondly, it like messes with your hormones. So I got the copper IUD, which has been flawless. I've had it for years. And it's the best decision I ever made in my life. You put it in, you forget it. Seriously. And then it's good for 12 years. And if you decide I want to have kids, you take it out and you wait like a week and then you can have kids. And I'm not going to ever do that unless I'm going to exchange it out for another one. So my dad had the nerve to be like, you can put it back in after you have the kid. I'm like, no, leave me alone. So from my perspective, I don't think it's just an INFP thing, because I think there are a lot of INFPs that normally that grew up in decent households where they do want kids. As a matter of fact, I would argue that many INFPs want kids, but it depends on your upbringing. I know INTJs by nature, most of them don't go out there saying, I want to have children. That's the last thing on their mind. Usually it's something that just happens to them. But INFPs are kind of like a toss-up. There are those that are very loving and they're like, ooh, instead of having animals, I just want to love someone, and that's my little baby. And that's how I feel about my animals. I want a puppy. I want a new puppy. I don't want a kid. I want another puppy. You may be wondering what's the difference. If you have to ask the difference, you've never had a pet, and you've never raised or fed actual kids, because there is a huge difference. One's super expensive, one is not. So that's how I feel about that. I don't think it's a Myers-Briggs thing. I think it's just a matter of, hey, it's your body, it's your life, it's your choice. And if you choose to want to do this with it, do it. If you choose you don't want to do this with your body, don't do it. It shouldn't be up to anybody else what you do with your body except for you. That goes for everything that's coming out of your body and that's going into your body, whether it be a medication, whether it be someone's bodily fluids. If you don't want something in your body, you shouldn't have to get pressured to put it in there. Especially when whoever is telling you that has no bearing on what happens to you afterwards. Someone tells you you need to take this or you need to get pregnant and then you die because of it. Guess what? It's no skin off their bones because they told you to do it and you did it because you felt pressured. That's ridiculous. So that's my opinion on that. Feel free to share what your thoughts are. Why or why not? You would want to have kids or not. People who have changed their mind. I know I'm not changing my mind. It's not like, oh, I'll change my mind later. Trust me, I'm not. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. I'll see you guys in the next video.